Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. It's my pleasure to extend a heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you to this evening lecture, STIP 50-second STIP lecture on connecting the unconnected in 5G and beyond. It is an honor to have you all join us today for this significant lecture that lies at the intersection of science, technology, innovation, and societal progress. We are thrilled to see such a good turnout that promises to be an engaging and enlightening evening. At the outset, I extend a warm welcome to the dignitaries on the dais. Our keynote speaker, Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Thank you, sir, for gracing us with your presence and your willingness to share your expertise and insights on this significant topic. May I request Ms. Sonu Bhatia to honor sir with potted plant as a token of respect and appreciation. I would also like to extend a heartfelt welcome to our distinguished guest, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, Director General RIS, Research and Information Systems for Developing Countries under Ministry of External Affairs. Thank you, sir, for gracing the program. I request Shri Pradeep Kumar to offer potted plants to Professor Sachin Chaturvedi. A warm welcome to Shri Sunit Tandon, Director, India Habitat Center. Our sincere appreciation to you for accepting our invitation, gracing the program. I now request Sonu Bhatia to offer the potted plant as a token of appreciation. Thank you. It gives me immense pleasure to extend a warm welcome to Madam A. Dhanalakshmi, Joint Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, who is gracing and serving as chair of the program, as convener of the program. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us. And I request Ms. Anupama to offer the potted plant. My warm welcome to Dr. Rashmi Sharma, Head NCSTC Division of Department of Science and Technology. I request Anupama again to offer the potted plant to ma'am. I also take this opportunity to honor Dr. Amit Kumar, Associate Professor, RIS, who has been a big support in facilitating and organizing the event, and within a very short time. Thank you, Dr. Amit, and I request Anupama again to offer him with a potted plant as a token of appreciation. Yeah. Yeah. The STIP forum has been created to encourage discussions about different topics of science, technology, and innovation policy. It seems to bring together the ideas from various fields and look at how they connect with each other. The goal is to make sure that scientific advancements are shared with everyone and that there is a conversation about the advancements and developments of science and technology with people, with public at large. The monthly STIP lecture series is a part of this effort to get more people talking about science, technology, and innovation and the societal progress. The collaborative partner organization include RIS, TERI, CEFIPRA, India Habitat Center, and Vigyan Prasad DST was the partner till last year. On behalf of STIP Forum and all its members, I extend a warm welcome to all our esteemed collaborative partner organizations. If somebody is from the organization, partner organization, we would like to honor you and a warm welcome to all of you. So we'd like to honor him. Yeah, we'd like to honor you with a potted plant. Sonu, may I request you to offer? Thank you for coming. Your presence here today is a testament to the dedicated and shared commitment towards promoting science, technology, and innovation. Once again, a warm welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you for being part of this program. I now invite Professor Sachin Chaturvedi for his introductory remarks.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Kankani Mishra, for bringing us in together. Thanks, Amit, for having organized this with all of our partner institutions. Respected Professor Abhay Karandikarji, Secretary DST, Suniji, Director India Habitat Center, Ms. Dhanalakshmi, the Joint Secretary here, and also Dr. Rashmi Sharma, the new head of Vigyan Prasar, which used to be partner in this, but now in new incarnation, NCSTC, which has joined in. Friends and colleagues, it's a very, very pious day today when we are beginning the new year, Gudi Padwa, Ugadi, and also the 9 days that we have begun. I think it's a beginning in terms of how the new year really looks like, and the way we bring in the idea of science, technology, and innovation. As Dr. Kankani mentioned, the objective is to create the scientific temper. The idea is to bring forward objectives, the way they go forward in terms of how India Habitat Center has been partnering in terms of taking this whole exercise forward. So the institutions which are based in India Habitat Center came together. We had discussions, and Habitat Center continuously has been providing this space free of cost to the institutions, and has also been offering coffee and tea. The Vigyan Prasad today has gone one step forward, and a dinner has also been arranged today. So a big hand for our colleagues from NCST. So they have now, after this transition, have opened up the purse and have opened up doors for much more meaningful discussion on science, technology, and innovation. As you know, Prime Minister has been talking in terms of scientific social responsibility, the idea of converging economic growth with our advancement in science, technology, and innovation, making it more accessible, more inclusive, and more equitable in terms of its access. How do we reduce cost of accessing the technological advancements without losing our participation at the front end? And Secretary was just now mentioning when he came in, the focus that DST has now on quantum and associated initiatives that DST has. Our idea with this lecture series basically is to bring forward the developmental dimensions that are there, with which society is connected. India's own imagination is expanding on STI frontier, the geopolitics of it, and we are delighted that we have people like Professor Chintamani, Professor Arvind Kumar, Professor Sheshadri Chari, who have been thinking in terms of Dr. Malti Goyal. Yes, they have been thinking in terms of the global geopolitics and how technology frontier actually brings forward our ability. And this was actually the focus of the first lecture we did with Dr. Chidambaram when he was heading the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office. And in that lecture, he explained India-China dimension, but also US-China competition. The science and technology also depends in terms of critical minerals and our ability to produce not only the gadgets that are required, but also bring in the sustainability component that is there with the technology. The edge is also in terms of how we make it available. So several digital expansions that we have done, we have captured in last 52 lectures. This is the 52nd lecture that we are doing. So partnership has evolved very well. And I think we need to bring in science diplomacy along with the science technologies development perspective. Today, we have a lot of students from management institutions which are bringing in a different perspective in terms of how they see STI as part of a building block for society and for national competitiveness. So I once very warmly welcome all of you to this lecture series, and thank all of our partners, TERI, Safipra, now not Vigyan Prasar, but NCSTC, and also the support that we get from India Habitat Center. So thank you and warm welcome again.
Thank you, Professor Chaturvedi, for your insightful words and setting the context. I now invite Shri Sunit Tandon, Director, India Habitat Center, for his introductory remarks.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Misra. My task is made very simple because Dr. Misra and Professor Sachin Chaturvedi have already given us a real outline on what the STIP forum is all about. And the fact that it is a collaborative forum between various institutions means that it really bears out the philosophy of setting up of the India Habitat Center in the first place, which was to provide a synergistic ambience and atmosphere for various institutions to be housed together and to collaborate and to make the most of their proximity to each other. So this is a true emblem of what the India Habitat Center stands for, and I am so delighted that each of the institutions has taken it so seriously to carry it forward that we have reached the 52nd milestone. I think 52 means that we are now mature. We have our wisdom teeth as well. So we should now go on to even further greater glories. And the task of spreading awareness about a variety of science, technology, and innovation areas has been taken on very well and truly, including the fact that some lectures have been published earlier by RIS, which has taken a great step in doing so. I must thank all the institutions, and Dr. Nitin Seth, one of the heads of one of the institutions, is also present here. So thank you very much, and thank you to all the institutions separately and individually, and to all of you for being here. It's so nice to have you here in such large numbers for this very important talk. And I think there could be nobody better than our guest today, the Secretary of Science and Technology, Government of India, to talk about connecting the unconnected in 5G and beyond, because we all know he's an expert in the field, one of the foremost experts in the world. Thank you very much indeed. It'll be a great pleasure to listen to Professor Karandikar on the subject.
Thank you, Mr. Sunit Tandon. In fact, we have very eminent personalities sitting here, and it would be, I would not be able to take everyone's name, but I can see Dr. Anita Gupta, Senior Advisor, sitting here, Dr. Nisha Mendiratta, who is an Executive Director of Indo-US Forum, and similarly other dignitaries. So a warm welcome to each one of you. And it's my pleasure now to invite Mrs. A. Dhanalakshmi, Joint Secretary, for his chairmanship remark.
Good evening, everybody. Respected Professor Abhay Karandikarji, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Mr. Sunil Tandonji, Head of India Habitat Center, and Professor Amit Sachin Chaturvedi ji, Director RIS, and my dear colleague Reshmi Sharma, Head NCSTC, and Dr. Kinkini Das Mishra, my colleague and friend in Vigyan Prasha. Good evening, everybody. And it's indeed a great pleasure and honor for me to be among you today. I mean, the hall is beaming with intellectual aura, and I'm enjoying the glory of all intellectual company today evening. So this lecture series, 52nd lecture series, when Vigyan Prasha's term came, Dr. Kinkini Das Mishra requested me, do we have to go ahead with this? Because all of you know about the status of Vigyan Prasad as I'm today. But I said, no, till we die, we keep doing. So we said, then we thought we'll request our secretary. She was asking who will. I said, who other than our secretary? He is the most, eligible person to deliver a lecture on this kind of forum. So I requested him, our secretary, and you won't believe, he was fully packed. His dates are back to back packed. He did not have half an hour time during working days to spare. Still, he gave me a hope. We'll do it. Don't worry. So we requested him, we adjusted, he adjusted his timings to accommodate our request, and today it happened. So I'm thankful to all of you for supporting us. And in addition, during the last moment, we thought it's not enough if you call all these intellectual personalities and then just send them back with a cup of tea. So we thought when there is a moment, let it be celebrated. So we arranged dinner, and we had to disturb India Habitat Center and RIS during holidays. That decision to have this dinner was taken very late on the last working day. So we had to disturb them during holidays and late nights also. And I'm thankful that all of them supported us, and we made it today in this scale. And I'm thankful to each and everyone who has taken their time out of their busy schedule in the evening on a festive day for most of us and come here. And today, this forum is one of the best forum for sharing the innovations, technologies, science, and development. And in addition, our Professor Karandikar sir has selected a topic which has revolutionized the Indian social fabric threads. You know, 10 years back, I'm not talking about long back, during 2014, when the government of India decided to have a united scholarship portal. Like earlier, we used to receive scholarship applications for scholarship on offline mode. Lot of paperwork has to be moved from remote areas where schools and colleges are located to the central location where the scholarship have been dispersed. So we thought we'll do away with this paperwork, and we introduced this national scholarship portal, a one portal where all the scholarship application has been. At that time in 2014, I remember September 2014, when we launched the portal, we found, to our surprise, that some of the states and union territories did not have an internet connectivity so that they can upload their applications on the portal. Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Arunachal, and UP, and some other states did not have computers with them to upload the application on the portal. Leave alone computers, they did not have network connectivity also, internet connectivity. So we had to pay TADA to these officers to come to either West Bengal or nearby centers where these people could load their content. So from there, in 10 years, we have progressed to a status where the mobile connectivity, internet connectivity is much more cheaper than the cost of a meal today. So the poorest of poor, who were never imagining to leave their native place for employment opportunity or economic development outside, are now facilitated. They can move around anywhere in the country, not only in the country, outside also, to sustain their livelihood. One 1500 rupees phone with a small screen and a what do you call number system, that phone will help these people who migrate to other places for economic development keep connected with their loved ones back in their hometown. This has revolutionized. Earlier, people were dying of poverty, unemployment, and now they started moving to places where there are greener opportunities, pastures. Where this technology, mobile technology, and this connectivity has revolutionized the social status of people who never imagined of moving out of their villages or small areas of location. So I should thank Professor Karandikar to select such a topic which will be of great relevance to each and every one of us. It's not a technology or a topic which does not affect our life in any way. It's affecting, and it is going to affect our life in many ways in future also. Thank you very much, sir, for selecting such an opt topic. And now coming to DST's initiative of connecting, collaborating the science and technology initiatives, we have an ISTI portal. Vigyan Prashad has been handling this portal, and we have been updating it on a regular basis. And we have 6 partner ministries which provide information to us. And this portal is being updated by our technical team and Professor Kinkini Das Mishra. Recently, PSA office has taken a special interest on this portal, and they wanted us to give an update. Now, collecting information from every ministry is a big problem, though we have a systematic method of, they have all nominated nodal officers. these nodal officers are having many other things on their platter other than providing information to us. So we are always at the loss of required information to update the portal on a real-time basis, leave alone real-time, even once in 15 days we don't get, because the other officers, nodal officers, have their own priorities other than supplying information to. So we have decided that we'll have an APL connect technology intervention, where these ministries websites say we can cull out the information, we can download information through technology, and then those information can be uploaded in our website, so that without much disturbance to the technical experts, we get the information and collate it. So this initiative has to be supported both financially and technically by all the concerned ministries. Now that I have a lot of people from various forums sitting here, I thought this will be a right opportunity for me to request everybody, whoever has information, to be uploaded on the portal to provide the information. And thank you very much, and I wish great success for this lecture series, and I wish many more such lectures happen in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Dhanalakshmi. You have been always the guiding spirit for all of us. In a world where connectivity has become synonymous with progress and opportunities, the advent of 5G technology holds an immense potential with possibilities and challenges. When we talk about fast speeds, we talk about latent, the ultra fast speeds, low latency, and massive connectivity. It holds the potential to revolutionize industries, empower the communities, and bridge the digital divide. Today's lecture on connecting the unconnected in 5G and beyond is a call to actions and aims to explore innovative strategies, solutions, and policies that will enable us to overcome the barriers to connectivity and create an inclusive access for future. It is my honor to invite Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary DST, for this talk. Professor Abhay Karandikar is the brain behind the rollout of 5G in the country. He is renowned for his contributions to the telecom sector in the country. He has developed Frugal 5G network to enable affordable rural connectivity and contributed to telecom policies and regulations. Welcome, sir, for your lecture.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Kinkini mentioned that I was the brain behind rollout of 5G. I think nothing can be far from truth. That I have nothing to do with the rollout of 5G, which is primarily the responsibility of telecom service providers. And do not blame me if you don't get the connectivity, as Dhanalakshmi mentioned, that this will solve all the problems. So I have no role in either rolling out the 5G, or if you don't get the connection, then don't blame me. However, since the context of this forum is also to discuss some of the geopolitical issues that come in science and technology, and since I was intimately involved with how our group, means my research group at IIT Bombay and in general India, made a difference at the global level, and I will just give you a glimpse of that. There are lots of technical details, and as the Dhanalakshmi mentioned, that I am having like back-to-back meetings, and that did not give me the time to revise some of these slides, and as a result, some very deep technical material has creeped in. I did delete one slide just now, 10 minutes back, but bear with me if you find some of them a little bit technical, but I would really like to give you like what is really the issue involved in wireless standardizations, and how India played a significant role, particularly during the year 2016 to 2019. And I think I will just illustrate that point. And 5G, therefore, is an example. We have to do sort of much more. Now, this is a broad agenda. This will tell you a status of internet and broadband connectivity. More specifically, we will look at the rural broadband connectivity. What are the requirements and what are the key challenges, and how we started rethinking the 5G requirement for the rural areas, particularly in the Indian context. And how did India take these requirements to the global level and affected the evolution of the technology in a way which benefits our country. So there are two examples, 5GI and Frugal 5G, which is an IEEE standard P2061, which my research group is leading. Now, despite, I think, the proliferation of cellular mobile communication, as also, the Joint Secretary mentioned, the fact remains that a large population of the world is still unconnected. And as much as 32% of the world population is unconnected in terms of high-speed connectivity. And majority of them is in the developing world, and in the developing world, the majority is in the rural areas. If you look at the status of the broadband penetration in India, we have about 140 billion population, and we have about 118 billion telecom subscribers. We have a tele density of 134. That means 134 phones per 100 people. So obviously it means that some people are having more than one phone. For example, I am having I'm having two phones. So obviously the tele density is 134. But if you look at in the rural areas, it is still, 58. And if you look at the internet subscribers, it is 42. So that means that is still a large, addressable gap, because the wireless internet subscribers are only 880 million in a country where we have, twice the population size. So therefore, and most of these is in the rural areas, as has been pointed out. And one needs to therefore think that what are the challenges, what are the requirements, and how to have the penetration of the broadband. And I think, as all of you know, and as was mentioned, that never before than the pandemic, the COVID-19 reinforced the need for improved connectivity. And this was a major challenge for online education, online access, and so on. And the internet consumption during COVID-19 significantly increased, really therefore outlining the need for a good broadband connectivity requirement everywhere. Now, how is the broadband given? Now, let me just tell you here give you some perspective. Now, just rewind to the era of 90s, and if you go back to the 90s, in the developed countries, I just told you that we have a tele density of 134 in the urban cities. The tele density in 90s in India was less than 5. It was very bad. It used to get lot of time to get telephone connections. You have to be really an influential person to get a telephone connection. And at that time, the government of India has also introduced a scheme like OYT, own your telephone, and those kinds, right? And at that point, in rest of the world, in developed countries, the tele density was as high as it is there in India today. Okay, that was in 90s. Because there was a very significant infrastructure of wired communication. Okay, so wired, almost every house you had a wire, and that was really a problem in India. Now, the same way, the broadband in developed countries, that is in the US and the Western world, it is even today is mostly enabled through wired communication infrastructure. Earlier it was DSL, which was actually providing over the telephone lines, but now almost every home has fiber to the home. So if you go to the US, almost every home has fiber to the home, and then inside home you can have a Wi-Fi. So that is the primary connectivity. In India, after the cellular mobile communication was introduced, the cell phone became the primary phone for many people. In fact, a large population did not own the phone, and the cell phone became the primary access device for the voice communications. And that is how the proliferation of the cellular mobile communication took place in our country. And when the internet evolved and when the broadband came, even today, the cellular phone is the primary device for accessing the broadband. Okay, unlike, as I said, that in the US, in the Western world, where fiber to the home is actually the norm. So the fiber and DSL infrastructure is still inadequate, barring, few metropolitan cities like Delhi, Mumbai, and so on, where, you can get fiber to the home. But otherwise, it wasn't there. Now, even though there has been a proliferation of the cellular access technology in the rural areas, there continues to be challenges in using the cellular technology in the rural areas. And the primary reason is that when the cellular technology evolved, when the cellular standards were made, the Western world was interested in devising the cellular technology to address the problem of mobility. When they are at home or when they are at office, they have an access to a landline phone and they have access to the broadband connection through the fiber. They needed a broadband connection and they needed a phone when you are on mobile. Okay, when you are walking, when you are driving, when you are sitting in a car or where you are sitting in a train, then, so that was the primary reason for the evolution of the cellular technology. But in India, it has become the primary broadband or the primary telephone access mechanism, and people are using it heavily even if you are sitting at home all the time. Okay, or if you are at office all the time, you are not moving. And actually, that is a major issue because that's not how the technology was developed. Okay, and I will address those issues. So the focus of the technology was on the urban usage scenario, and there was a limited support for the rural connectivity. And I will just illustrate what you need to support the rural requirement. And finally, there was no compelling commercial reason for a telecom operator to target the rural areas. And I will give you one example. Even though today the cost of a cell phone has come down significantly and the cost of a 4G base station also has come down significantly, okay, but for a operator to install a 4G base station, I'm telling you that the cost of the passive infrastructure, that is the tower, because that also requires a concrete base and the tower, is more than the cost of the electronics. Okay, the cost of the a passive tower will cost you about 10 to 12 lakh rupees, and the cost of the electronics has come down significantly. Moreover, for every wireless, you need a wire. Because once you have a tower, you have to backhaul the traffic. So you need a fiber connectivity. And again, the fiber has not reached all the villages. And there is a significant investment that is required for an operator to lay the backhaul, including the right-of-way issues, etc. So there is a significant cost for installing tower in each and every villages to provide you a seamless connectivity everywhere. And you want the seamless connectivity everywhere, no matter where you go, and that means you need a coverage. And for the coverage, an operator therefore have to have an adequate number of base stations, and for every base station the operator needs to provide the backhaul, and that adds to the cost. And that is where now in India the average revenue per user is very low. No one in the rural areas would want to pay more than 100 rupees per month on the broadband connectivity. So an operator will get only 1200 rupees from a subscriber in a year. And in order to recover the cost itself of infrastructure and cost of acquisition of the subscriber, an operator will have to run the infrastructure for 5 to 7 or 8 years before it can even break even the cost. So there is really no compelling reasons from the business side to target the rural users. Now, what was happening is that, let me just give you some details of some technical term. So this IMT 2020, so IMT 2020 is the official name of the 5G. It's a United Nations body. So it is a United Nations body called International Telecommunications Union, ITU. And ITU has this name, IMT 2020, which are actually an official name for 5G, you can say. So when these requirements, so usually what happens is that ITU defines the requirements. Okay, and ITU is a body, since it is a United Nations body, it has all countries as the members of the body. So when it defines certain requirements, when certain requirements were being defined in 2012 time frame for 5G, they were not suitable for the rural India. But of course, India did not have a voice at that time. So these requirements are focused on very high throughput while you are mobile. So that is called EMBB, Enhanced Mobile Broadband, and Internet of Things. So that means, you want to connect billions of devices. And URLLC, Ultra Reliable Low Latency Communication. So these are the use cases, for example, for controlling a tele-robot and so on. Now, since you want to support lot of throughput, lot of capacity, the requirements which were defined were catering to smaller cell size. That means a tower or a base station will support an area of a radius of only, let us say, 500 meters or 700 meters. And so if you want to support a much larger area, you need large number of such base stations, okay, which was okay for the Western world because you have a fiber everywhere and it really doesn't, really matter if you put large number of small size base stations. Then high-speed mobility, because mobility was the focus. So IMT 2020 was focusing on speeds like 500 kilometers per hour, because you want a good speed while you are in bullet train, because that is the requirement. Okay, you don't want good speed when you are at home. When you are at home, you have a fiber and you have a Wi-Fi. If you are in the office, you have a fiber, you have the Wi-Fi. Okay, you want good speed at 500 kilometers per hour. So that was the requirement. So basically it was driven by the needs of major stakeholders, which is at that point Europe, China, US. And Indian rural requirements were not well supported. Now, what are those requirements which should be supported? One is, of course, affordability. So the cost should be low, and I will come to this aspect later. The second is we needed limited need for high mobility. We don't need 500 kilometers per hour. We need 45 kilometers per hour. In most of our Indian cities, if you are in a car, you are not traveling more than 50 kilometers per hour. But most of the time, if you are sitting here, for example, you want to browse and a very high throughput. Now, of course, there is this question that something which works at 500 kilometers per hour, will it work when you are stationary? The answer is that it will work, but at a very huge cost in terms of energy. So something which has been optimized for high mobility will work very inefficiently if you are, at a fixed space. Okay. So I think then we needed a large coverage area support. Again, as I told you, if you optimize the design for smaller sizes, then in order to cover the sparse rural population, you have to install many base stations. And then you have to take backhaul to each and every base station, which is again an expensive proposition. Instead, it would be good that if you have a base station which covers a very large area, okay, let's say 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers, then I think that would be ideal. Then there are some clustered service provisioning. I think this is a little technical, so you can sort of don't have to go into the details. But energy efficient solution. Now, what is happening is that, since I am a communications researcher, all these years, lot of research has been going on in improving the energy efficiency of cell phones. So, why that is important? Because when you have a cell phone, you don't want the battery to be drained in 8 hours or 12 hours. You want the phone to last for 1 day, or so that you can charge only during the night time and so on. Lot of research has been happening. But no one thought about energy efficiency of the base station. Now, that is not an issue in the Western world because each base station will be connected to the electricity grid and there is a 24/7 supply. So, even if the base station consumes kilowatts of power, that is perfectly fine. But that was an issue in India where you did not have. Now, of course, we have a significant availability of electricity everywhere, but at that point of time, when you do not have the availability of 24/7 electricity supply, or the electricity is expensive, you would like to have the base station also to be highly energy efficient. That is, and then of course the localized communication and the local content generation, that is obviously a need, because in order for the broadband proliferations, you need, the local content generation and ease of manageability. Now, these networks are highly complex to manage, and therefore you need a very simple architecture. Again, this is technical, so I don't want to get into the details of this, but finally, the thing is that when these networks are deployed, operator do not want large number of people to manage it. It should be easily manageable remotely. Actually the architecture is really not designed to be such in a very integrated way, easily manageable. Now, just to give you an example, and this is what, so basically, when this was being discussed in IMT 2020, India was little late. And as I told you that already the requirements were started getting drafted in 2012 and we were not actively participating. We started actively participating after 2014 onwards when we set up the Telecom Standards Development Society of India, TSDSI. And then, we wanted to started taking our voice into the ITU. And just to give you an example here, that what we said, that assume, and it's a Government of India project of BharatNet, where the government is taking fiber to all the gram panchayats. So typically, there are 1 to 3 villages which are served by a gram panchayat. Okay, there are about 6 lakhs villages in our country, and there can be like 1 to 3 villages in a gram panchayat. So suppose a fiber gets terminated in a gram panchayat office, and if you put up a base station, then it should be able to cover all the villages surrounding that. Then our statistics shows that almost all villages of India are within 10-kilometer radius of gram panchayat, and more than 90% villages are within 6 kilometers radius, and more than 60% villages are within 3-kilometer radius. And as I already mentioned that we want low average revenue per user. It is only about 100 rupees per month, and it is even lower in the rural area. Now, high-speed mobility is not required. We have to cater to the slow-moving vehicles. So we proposed that in ITU requirements, there should be a case of low mobility, large coverage cell. Requirements also should be taken up, LMLC. Now, I will just briefly tell you what we did then. So after a lot of techno-political negotiation, we could get LMLC requirements accepted into the IMT 2020 requirements, which I will just briefly come into. Now, what happens is that in IMT 2020, it sets up the requirements only. It doesn't tell you which technology it can address. Now, there is a body called 3GPP, which actually drives the evolution of the wireless standards. And whatever is the IMT requirements are there, 3GPP then develops the technology and takes it to ITU to be a part of the standard. So basically, we developed the ITU LMLC. Now, we developed from TSDSI what is the technology that can meet those requirements, and then we took it to the ITU, and I will just sort of briefly tell you how is that scenario. A parallel efforts we have done it in IEEE, where we have suggested an architecture for a low mobility energy efficient network for the broadband access. And this is based on the ideas which we have developed at IIT Bombay. Now, let me just tell you about this LMLC, low mobility large cell. So, this was, our argument in IMT 2020 that BharatNet is deploying fiber in rural India. A fiber point of presence is terminating at every gram panchayat. And if we can provide the cellular connectivity around the gram panchayat, then it may be possible to provide the connectivity to the entire India. Now, let's look at, again, you don't have to get into the technical thing, but let's look at what IMT 2020 was proposing. This is on the left side, configuration A. And there they were saying the intersite distance is 1.7 kilometers. Okay. Now, if you put an intersite distance between two base stations is 1.7 kilometers, then you will require large number of base stations to be supported. So we suggested that the intersite distance would be about 6 kilometers, so that one base station can cover a radius of 6 kilometers. So that was number one change. In ITU, there was another thing that was supporting was 500 kilometers per hour. We suggested that indoor users 3 kilometers per hour, outdoor users pedestrian 3 kilometers per hour, and outdoor users in car 30 kilometers per hour. So this was a configuration that was proposed. And as you can see here, that a configuration A and configuration B was the existing rural model which was there in IMT 2020 proposed by most of the Western world, and LMLC was the model which was proposed by us, by India, which finally got accepted as configuration C. So I think this was really a major win for us to get our requirements accepted into the international standards. Till that time, even our requirements were not getting projected at the international scenario, and this required, I can tell you, lot of technopolitics and intervention from and support from the highest level in our government. And otherwise, it will not be possible to push through this at the global body. Now, this is a journey, and I will tell you after that, sort of what happened. So, Indian Rural Requirements Low Mobility Large Cell, which was developed under TSDSI, and this was in second quarter of 2016, that got accepted in 2017 in third quarter, and finally it became a part of the configuration of IMT 2020. Now is the real game started, and that is why, as you can see here, it has taken 4 years from 2017 to 2021. Now, what happened is that the requirements were of course accepted, but 3GPP, which is developing the standard, they said that their technology meets these requirements also. So therefore, there is really no need for another 5G standard, or no need to make changes in the standards, etc. Now, this is a very big issue because this involves the intellectual property, and this actually threatens also in some way, because we are trying to get our intellectual property into the technology. So we said that, in fact, a group from IIT Hyderabad and IIT Madras, we have developed a new air interface, a new radio interface, which will meet our requirements of LMLC. Now, 3GPP was dead against accepting our technology there. And the reason obviously was that if that get accepted, India's intellectual property becomes the part of the standard, and obviously that was therefore registered. So then what did we do? We at the TSDSI made our own 5G standard, so which was called 5GI. So I stands here for India. So this TSDSI 5GI radio interface technology we also developed. So 3GPP proposed its own technology to this International Telecommunication ITU body as the candidate 5G technology. And from the India TSDSI, we also proposed a 5GI as a candidate technology for 5G. Now, what happens at this UN body is that when these technologies are proposed, which meets the requirements of IMT 2020, because it is like this, that you have set up the requirements. If you have a technology which meets these requirements, then that technology can be called as 5G. So that's how it is. Now, usually a consensus is reached in 3GPP, and therefore there will be only one 5G technology. But we said no, if you are not accepting our radio interface, we will go ahead and propose our own technology to IMT 2020. Now, what does this ITU UN body does? Whenever anyone proposes a technology, it carries out a thorough evaluation of the technology to find out whether the technology meets the requirements of IMT 2020 or not. So that evaluation was done, and our technology, TSDSI's 5GI, met that requirements, and therefore in 21 it became a part of the IMT 2020's 5G standard. So basically IMT 2020 therefore had two technologies, one which was proposed by 3GPP, another which was proposed by India, which was TSDSI 5GI. Now, the thing is, like, we have proposed the technology, but obviously we do not have an ecosystem of companies which are developing those technologies. So those challenges remains, that how do you bring the equipments which will conform to those standards, etc. So that is a very, very big challenge. But this was a strategically tactical move, and obviously this has rattled the world, because they were thinking that if India declares this 5GI to be the national standard, then everyone will have to follow that as the standard. So finally, after some negotiation, 3GPP relented, and as you can see, our technology 5GI standard that got merged into the 3GPP release 17 specifications. And I think this was therefore a very big win for us, because now Indian IPR and Indian patents are part of the global 5G standard. And this was a efforts and a journey which took, from 2016 to 2022. So I think this is what, we sort of accomplished. And I don't want to get into there are a lot of technical details and, how it has been done. And as I mentioned, as is mentioned in my introduction, that in 2016, I was the chairman of the TSDSI, and I remained as the chairman till 2018. So I was steering all these proposals, and we had lots of contributions from my own institute at that time, IIT Bombay, IIT Hyderabad, IIT Madras, and we could get some of the intellectual property rights and patents into the global 5G standard, and could get India's voice onto the 5G. There was a parallel efforts, and this is not a technology, but this is an architecture which will allow an operator to deploy the network. So therefore, here the 3GPP 5G can be used as the base station, but this architecture enables the backhaul to be not just based on the fiber, but based on the wireless backhaul, and that is why it is called as a middle mile. So basically what we are suggesting is that you can have a smaller cells in the villages which are providing the connectivity. So these are basically cell phone towers, and these cell phone towers are not backhauled using fiber, but they are also backhauled using wireless, and that is why it is called middle mile. So there is another layer was introduced, and then of course it is connected to a macro base station, which could be, for example, in this case at the Gram Panchayat office, where there is a fiber connectivity. Again, these are matters of details. This also has the same thing, like large coverage area cells to provide ubiquitous connectivity and so on. So in summary, rural broadband and digital empowerment, they require some technical challenges to be addressed through technology innovations. And 5GI, which was a standard proposed by India, it was an innovation in the radio access technology to support the large coverage area cell. And finally, it got accepted by ITUR and 3GPP, and it is now part of the 5G technology suite. The frugal 5G is an innovation in a network architecture, and this is a method for an operator to deploy the network in a very efficient way, both energy efficient and the mobility efficient. And together with this standard, with the frugal 5G, and by the way, the frugal doesn't mean that we are having frugality in services or something. The frugal only means that it is a way to basically provide the efficiency in the form of both the energy efficiency as well as the mobility. And that can address the problem of affordable broadband connectivity and easy manageability, because this is a service layer, and this service layer will enable an operator to manage the entire network in a more sort of easier way, in an easier way than what is possible now. Not only that, it will also allow the operator to, because any operator when it deploys the 5G, it will also have the 4G, it will also have 3G, it will also have the Wi-Fi. It will allow the integration of these heterogeneous in a unified, integrated way. And that's why you will not have call drops if you are moving from 5G to 4G or Wi-Fi and so on, which is actually can happen today because the technology actually does not enable a seamless integration. So this standard P2061 will actually enable that. Now, what is the next? The next is that we have made some contributions in 5G. We are positioned in a very unique way to drive 6G, because remember, IMT 2020 requirements started getting drafted in 2011-12, and we entered in the scene only in 2014-15. By the time almost the requirements were drafted, and we could therefore only get one LMLC incorporated as another thing. We could not change the entire thing. In 6G, which will be called IMT 2030, the 6G's official name is IMT 2030, because 6G technologies will come by 2030. Those requirements are getting started now, and we are contributing from the India side right from the beginning. So we are in a way to influence the direction right from the beginning, and not when it is a sort of a late stage. So here is an opportunity for us to drive the evolution of the future technologies, and I think I should say that in the case of cellular mobile communications, this is really indeed the right time where we can actually influence the evolution of the future telecom technologies. So thank you very much. I will be happy to take any question. My sort of apologies because I would have given a different, I would have used a different set of slides for this audience, which is non-wireless communication engineers. But I did not really get those time. But as I said, I'm really fortunate to be a part of this entire process, both from the India side leading the TSDSI in that time frame. Also, as I mentioned, that our group has been leading the IEEE standard, and IEEE 1930 was the first IEEE standard to come out of Indian efforts. So we have made some headway, and I should say that this is the time. So I think I can take few questions if there.
Devices are not compatible. So what can be done to? It's only.
No, if you get new technology, you have to change the device. So,
sir, I have a simple question. India's situation and China's situation in terms of population, distribution of population in rural areas are almost similar. So we developed LMCC, whereas what is the Chinese model? They are a early starter. Why they could not able to develop a technology which has relevance to India?
No. Let me just tell you one thing. That 2012-13 China is different than what China was there in 2000. Okay. So similarly, India in 2025 will be different than what India was there in 2012. Okay, so so China was in the same situation when the 3G standards was getting developed. So when the 3G was getting developed, the Chinese got their own standard called TD-SCDMA, and they said, they actually dictated. They said, if you want to come in China, then you have to follow these standards. And finally, the world has to relent and incorporate that as a part of the 3G standards. So that's how. After that, China has taken a significant leap. It became, so therefore the requirements in the case of China were similar there. But we were still catching up. Okay. Maybe our requirements, so when you become a developed world, then your requirements will be the same as that of the developed world. So our requirements in 2030 will be very different than 2012. The important fact is that whatever be those requirements at that point of time or future, we should be in a position to influence those requirements and drive the evolution. We were merely a market, an emerging market. We were not a technology driver or a technology, yeah. So I think that is the difference. So yes, in 2030, if we become a developed world, our requirements may not be different from that of any other developed world.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for a very interesting lecture. I disagree with you that it was not friendly for non-technical people. I think I really enjoyed your presentation. I have one question. I mean, you said that 5G was merged into 5G or whatever the EGG.
3GPP, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I remember around that time there were headlines screaming, India abandons 5G. There were some people who were saying that it is basically Indian government has fallen in the trap of the telecom operators and given up its indigenous technology and merged it with. But I listened to your lecture and I understood that it's basically to maintain a global standard.
Yeah, I think I will just answer. I think it is that headline was misleading. The Indian reporters, first of all, they lack the technical knowledge, so they cannot many times understand the complexities. But I'll tell you the thing. The thing is that, you can always make your own standard, okay, and which has all 100% your IPRs. And you can develop a technology based on that. But what happens is that we, as a country of this size, also wants to take advantage of economies of scale. So we want to be a part of a global technology which is sold everywhere, so that it is cost competitive for us also, for rest of the world. And in that global technology, we have a share of our intellectual property. So I think that is, the key thing. I'll just give you an example of how this shift in the IPR has happened. When the 3G and 4G, when 2G and 3G technology was there, 90% of the IPR were held by US and Europe. 90%, and only 10% by rest of the world. When the technology moved from 3G to 4G, the balance of IPRs shifted to Asia Pacific. In 4G technology, 30 to 40% or 30 to 35% of the IPR were held by the Asia Pacific, only 65% by the US and Europe. And in this Asia Pacific, primarily the countries are China, South Korea, and Japan. And when the technology moved to 5G, now the situation is 65% of the IPRs are being held by Asia Pacific. That is China, South Korea, Japan. And only 35% are held by the US and the Europe. Now in this 5G, we have few, IPRs which can be counted on fingers. But we want to move to a situation where, as a country, India also holds 5 to 10% of the IPR of the global 6G or 7G standards. If we reach a situation, then we will be in a scenario where we can have a product which is cost competitive, taking advantage of global economies of scale, and also we have our own intellectual property.
When we say that in 2030 India will be different than what it is now, so does it mean that there will be no need for LMLC?
No, there may not be any need for LMLC, but remember, India's requirements cannot be exactly the same as the requirements of other countries, for the simple reason that we have such a large and diverse and heterogeneous population, which is not there in any other part of the world. So our requirements will continue to be different. How different, what different, that is, of course, at any point of time.
So can I ask you a small
Yeah,
question?
we'll take two more questions because want of time, and I would request the young people sitting at the back to ask more questions. Maybe we'll take two.
I have a quick question, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, please.
So thank you for a very insightful presentation. But I just wanted to know, as there are advancements in semiconductor technology, battery technology, how would these trade-offs, like to have a high mobility versus energy, these trade-offs, what they happen in?
No, those are fundamental. So there is a trade-off between spectral efficiency and energy efficiency. So this is the fundamental communication theory.
Right.
So if you want a very high spec, you cannot simultaneously have a highly spectral efficient and a highly energy efficient and a technology which is also optimized for all mobility conditions. So all three axes you cannot optimize. This is because of the fundamental nature, and this has nothing to do with the technology. This is the laws of communications theory. So this is from the Shannon's law.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Sir, yeah, I was curious to know where does India stand in determining the global 6D standards right now? Which are the institutes working on it?
So, I mean, as I said, that we have all the IITs which have been participating: IIT Bombay, IIT Kanpur, IIT Hyderabad, IIT Madras, Center for Excellence in Wireless Technology, and there are many companies like companies such as Tejas Networks and Sankhya Labs and few other startups also in this area, which have been contributing to the global 6G standards. But this is not enough. A lot needs to be done, and we need a very large sustained participations from large number of researchers to reach to a level where anything like China or South Korea are there today.
Sir, I have a couple of factual queries, but before that, I must congratulate you and your peers from IITs for having battled it out successfully at IMT 2020. You said that unleashing 5G would require an increased number of base stations that would naturally drive up the costs. But at the same time, we have a target of keeping it less than 100 rupee per month. So how are you balancing this? How are you going to achieve this target? And secondly, you tangentially referred to the geopolitical edge that India might have after 5G. But in that respect, I would like to know what is the dependence on Chinese manufacturers for components, because we'll need a large number, and we know how big is companies like Huawei and all. And thirdly, something that has been completely dismissed offhand, and it was brought to the High Court in 2021 about the health implications of 5G. There wasn't much by way of scientific discussions on whether these
issues are really scientific or mere conspiracies. So
So let me just answer the last question first. So let me just tell you, there is a difference between health effects and health hazards. Okay. So if you ask me the question, is there an and I think it has nothing to do with 5G, because it has to do with the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay. And so the electromagnetic spectrum, they follow, if you have studied physics, then you know that they follow Maxwell's equations. And electromagnetic spectrum, when it interacts with any dielectric, then it leads to dielectric heating. Okay. So if you hold a cell phone for a long time near your ear, then you may feel heating. And there is no difference between this heating and the heating that you get when you stand under the sun, because the sun rays are also electromagnetic. They are natural and these are man-made. So otherwise, there is no difference. Okay. These effects are reversible. So if you, for example, in sun, if you come inside, then you don't feel the heat. So those effects are reversible. So someone asked me, is there a biological effect? So there is a effect, biological, because dielectric heating is a biological effect. Whether it is a health hazard, the answer is no, because these electromagnetic waves are they are non-ionizing radiations. Okay. So they are, so in the non-ionizing radiations, you cannot ionize. Okay. And therefore you cannot have deep skin penetration to cause an ionization. But electromagnetic waves like X-rays and so on, they are called ionizing radiations. They have a particle effect, and therefore they have the effect of mutating the genes, and therefore there can be a health hazards. Okay. So there is a distinction between biological effects and biological hazards. So in that sense, I think there are no health hazards of 5G or 4G or something, at least. But of course, there are some stories with that, there was a base station antenna facing your window and all family members got cancer. And these are like anecdotals, let me put it. There is really no physics which has been able to explain this kind of a phenomenon. This could be pure coincidental. And I think so. That should be that is number. Now, first question. I mean, your first question of the affordability. Yes, we are saying that the cost is reduced low because now you have the large coverage area. So one base station can cover a 6-kilometer area. In that sense, obviously you require less base station, and that also results in less backhaul fiber. So, the cost of the network goes down. So obviously the cost of an operator always gets amortized over the number of subscribers. So if his overall cost goes down, the cost per subscriber also goes down. So therefore, the operator can therefore have the tariff rates accordingly, and it can be therefore affordable. Now, what is the Chinese semiconductors? So I think, let me just explain here clearly that I have not talked about the semiconductors and the equipments and other things. I have only touched upon the intellectual property rights. Okay. So if you take a 5G phone, no matter whether that phone has been made in China using Chinese chips, or whether the phone has been made in US using all US chips, since all the people are holding IPR. So if you take a 4G phone, then in 4G phone, as I mentioned, the IPR shift has happened to Asia Pacific, like China, South Korea, etc. They are holding some 35% of the IPRs, and the US, Europe are holding some 65%. But India is not holding anything, 0% IPR. So there is this IPR distribution among these companies, which are from US, Europe, etc. Even if it is a Chinese companies in 5G, there is still an IP of a US company also, which will be required, even for a Chinese company. Okay. So, because unless you get, so there is this question of what is called as standards essential patents. So if your patent is into the standard, then you need that patent in order to develop that technology, right? Now, and that is the game, and that is why others will resist getting your patents becoming the standards essential patents. So this is really the politics of getting the standard essential patent. So if you have a standards essential patents like 5 to 10% that I mentioned in 6G, other countries are also having, but then you are a level playing field, because then you can bargain with those companies, because Chinese or US or Europe or anyone, Korea, they will need your IPR to make a 6G phone. Okay, they can make the semiconductor, they can, but they will need your IP. Without that, they cannot make that. Okay, so I think I just focus therefore on standards, essential patents, and IPRs and driving the next year. I did not focus on the product and the semiconductor, which is a separate topic and maybe a separate case for a lecture. But I just focused on the first thing is that we need to be at a level playing field. Today, if you do not have any standard essential patent, and if you want to develop the technology, then you have to license the technology from all the other vendors which are having those IPRs. And since you do not have anything to give, those things can dictate their terms to you. Okay, but when you have something to give, they also need your thing, then this will become a level playing field. So I think that is the game that needs to be played.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful talk on the journey of 5G, its development, requirement, standard innovation, and how India could push the LMLC into the world arena and accomplish the requirements. Thank you for your very informative and interesting talk. Now, before we invite Dr. Rashmi Sharma for a word of thanks, we have to offer a set of books, publications from Vigyan Prasar, and a memento from RIS. So I invite my colleagues Sonu and Pradeep to offer them to the dignitaries on the dais. Jaldi karo. Come on. So I would like to express gratitude and appreciation for all of you who are present here today, and you really graced this evening, being so much of your busy schedule. I now invite Dr. Rashmi Sharma for her vote of thanks.
धन्यवाद प्रस्तावना जो है एक परंपरा है. So here I am to propose the vote of thanks. On behalf of the organizers of 52nd Science, Technology and Innovation Policy Forum Lecture Series, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary DST, Government of India, one of the India's leading experts on telecommunication, a pillar of 5G communication, for his insightful lecture on connecting the unconnected in 5G and beyond. Although we have the privilege of interacting with him on regular basis on various diversified issues and discussions, but this opportunity of listening to your lecture, sir, gave us the immense pleasure because it was on your core subject. And this lecture has talked about how the 5G technology has evolved, what we are using right now, how India has taken it up, like whether it was energy efficient solutions, whether it was low mobility, large coverage area cells. And now what we have to do in the IMT 2030, because we are now the partner from the beginning for the 6G. So sir has given the goals for the researchers who are working in this area so that we can have the standard essential patents about 5 to 10%. So he has also given us the clarity regarding we have heard about the myths that this technology is harmful, and so he has clarified those myths, and that is what was the aim of science communication and popular science lectures, so that the people can get clarity about how the technology is being developed and what are the partners, and how whether this technology is useful or not, or whether it's harmful for the health. So he has given this talk very beautifully. My special thanks to Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, DG RIS, and Mr. Sumit Tandon, Director, India Habitat Center, for their enlightening introductory remarks, and gave us the insight like how this lecture series was initiated and what was the purpose of collaboration. Because when various institutions come together, they give us the opportunity to interact with each other and give us the how these things can be taken up in the right direction and taken up forward. I'm thankful to Ms. Dhanalakshmi, Joint Secretary, DST, who extended her unwavering support throughout the planning and execution process. Thanks to Dr. Kinkini Das Mishra, Scientist F. Vigyan Prasar, for her coordination efforts. Sincere appreciation to all the partners of this event, RIS, TERI, CEFIPRA, India Habitat Center, for determined efforts in making this lecture series possible. And I'm sure that NCSTSC will take this role forward and will collaborate with RIS and taking this up in the future also. I had a discussion with Professor Chaturvedi before this lecture. Last but not the least, thanks to all the participants for their active participation and engagement during the open discussion. The questions which all of you were throwing they showcase that it was a very interesting lecture, and you all have enjoyed this. So we look forward to your continued support and participation in the future events as well. Sabhi ko dhanyawad. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you so much. I invite all of you to join us for dinner just outside the hall. Thank you. Good night.